Hi there. Today I'm going to talk with you about a myth which I have had a client ask me about. They said, isn't it normal for a build project to cost 40% more than your initial budget? And the answer is no. No, absolutely not. No, it should not cost you 40% more. So I'm going to give you some tips about how to avoid this happening and some insight into why and how this could be happening in the first place. My name's Jane, I'm a chartered architect, I'm the founder of iArchitect, and I help homeowners of period property built before 1940 to turn their homes into comfortable, beautiful homes that retain their original character, suit a modern lifestyle, and are planet friendly. So why could it be that people are ending up paying 40% more than their initial budget? Well, there's firstly, in the construction industry, we are quite an optimistic bunch. Certainly architects, myself included, we're really optimistic, and yes, we have to be realistic, but you know, we're dreaming of a better future, and how we can make things better and what beautiful things we can do. And so that means you tend to have more of an optimistic mindset. And that's the same for builders. Builders tend to be really optimistic. You know, they're going to have they've got a hard job, and to actually get through that job, you have to have a pretty optimistic view of the world. So the people who are least optimistic in the construction industry are probably your quantity surveyors. They tend to be fairly realistic, and actually the best quantity surveyors are the ones who are slightly on the pessimistic side. They're going to be the ones who keep you really on track with your budget. So if budget is one of your highest priorities in your project, then getting a quantity surveyor involved at some stage is definitely worthwhile. So you might have heard, you know, what sort of typical build costs for these big house builders. You know, they're huge volume house builders, and they may spend somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500 per square metre. But the reason that they can do that is because they are building a lot at the same time. So they've got a huge benefit of scale. When you're talking about a smaller house extension or remodel, even a one-off single house new build, it's going to cost you quite a lot more per square metre than the big volume house builders can get, and you're typically going to need to budget for around £2,000 per square metre as a sort of finger in the air cost. It can cost you quite a lot more than that, and it may be possible to do it for less than that. But just as a starting point, that is a fairly reasonable place to start. If you're watching this now, please like and share, and especially if is this a myth that you believe that you should be spending 40% more than your original budget? Is that what you thought was true? Let me know in the comments below. So another reason that this could happen is because of changes made on site. So the most expensive time to make changes is when the project's on site. The cheapest time to make changes is very early on, when it's just pencil on paper. That's the best time to make your decisions, think things through, consider your options, make a decision, stick to it. So one of the things that I always ask when I'm checking references for new builders, there are a few questions that I ask, because the thing about these optimistic builders, sometimes builders are just genuinely really optimistic, but there are some builders who kind of play a bit of a game. So they'll put a low price in, and then during the build they will make up for that low price by by charging you premium or over premium rates for any changes that are made. So the way to get around this is to make sure all the decisions are made up front, and not make any changes on site. Obviously, sometimes it happens that you do want to make changes, but then you need to be aware that potentially is going to cost you more for that change. But when you're selecting a builder, you can help avoid getting a builder who's likely to make your project cost a lot more because of changes on site by asking a few simple questions of their references. And I tend to ask these of other homeowners. When I'm asking for references from builders, I always ask for at least one reference from an architect. Often the architect that they put me in touch with is not really an architect, so that's a different story. But that's something I always ask for, at least one architect and some other construction professionals, because they will give you a slightly different viewpoint. And then obviously you want to speak to some homeowners, some clients of theirs as well. So one other thing I would ask is, did the build cost more than the initial price that you were quoted? That is really useful to know. And then you'll get an idea, are they the sort of builder who's likely to come out more expensive afterwards? And then I ask, were there any changes made on site, and was that the reason for any overcost? And then I ask, who suggested the changes? Because that is really critical. I am very, very happy for my clients to come on site and say, I'm not sure about this and I want things to be changed, and for the decision or the idea for a change to come from the client. Where I am very unimpressed is when a builder will come along and say, oh, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Why not do it a different way? Because generally I have led my clients all the way through the project process, and we have made a lot of decisions, and those decisions have been made giving really careful thought and consideration over a long time. They are not snap decisions made on site. They are decisions made over several days, weeks, months, and occasionally they have taken some clients years. So they're not lightly taken. So I don't like it at all when a builder is of a type who will come along and say, oh, let's do it differently, because they're not necessarily aware of all the implications and all the reasons behind the decisions that have been made. So those are some good questions, how to make sure that you're selecting a builder who's less likely to create changes on site that are going to cause you more cost. Like and share this if you're watching and you're finding this useful. So third and final tip for you about how to avoid these cost overruns is to go for a competitive tender process and go with a realistic quote. Don't just take the cheapest option. You want to have made all your decisions up front. You want all of the information about everything set out, and then you want to ask your builders to price for that. You want to get at least three different builders to be giving you prices. Builders, contractors, by the way, they're sort of interchangeable term. They're slightly different meaning technically, but just from a jargon point of view, they're about the same. So yeah, get your selective, get your competitive tenders, 3 different prices. You might need to ask 4 different builders, or even 5 if they're interested in tendering, to actually get you those 3 competitive prices. And before you even compare those prices, I would also recommend getting a quantity surveyor or an estimator to put a price against those that information, so you've got a ballpark to compare all the others to. Then if you've got a builder that comes in significantly lower, that's a bit of a red flag, and you can go through and see, have they missed something out, or are they being extremely cheap in order to win the work? But then does that mean there's a danger that they will look for changes and add costs during the project? Ideally you want to go for somebody who's putting forward a realistic price, and not looking to change lots of things that you've put forward. And as a bit of a bonus tip, make sure that you have a good, robust contract in place. A contract with all of your tender documents, that is what the construction price is based on, so that you know what it is that you're asking your builders to build, and they're building on the basis of that. In order to get a robust contract in place, do it yourself or get somebody like myself to do that for you. Don't rely on the contractor to put a contract in place that would be in your best interest. Certainly there are lots of construction contracts around, and there are lots of variable options that you can select within a construction project. That's a whole other story, but yeah, make sure the contract is in your favour and not the builder's favour if you want to make sure that you're not going to have problems along the line. So that's my tips for today, and why I would absolutely say no, you must not expect your final cost to be 40% more than your budget cost. That is just crazy. 5 to 10% contingency, that's all you should have, and that's all you should need. Okay, let me know in the comments below what has been the most useful thing I've told you today, and if there's anything that you'd like to know more about, let me know. Okay, bye for now.